India's future isn't just being imagined, it's being built by educators, industry leaders, technologists, and policymakers coming together with one shared belief that skills will define our tomorrow. As AI reshapes the way we work, we must rethink how we learn, reskill, and grow. Pearson Skills Summit 2026, powered by the Economic Times, brought together leaders to shape a future-ready workforce powered by AI-enabled learning and strengthened by strategic partnerships. Because building India's workforce future isn't one organization's job, it's a collective mission. Here are the key highlights from the summit.
Omar, you travel throughout the world for work or for personal reasons. Can you give an example where AI and employability and skill sets, they have really, AI has helped in improving skill sets and employability?
So I'm going to have to talk about a space that Pearson is deep in, which is where, so as you know, we serve formal education, vocational education, and workplace learning. And I think we feel very positive about the application of AI in the learning process. And so if you think about teachers, and you run around the world's public education systems, you'll hear about teachers who are under-resourced and overworked, underpaid, and often burned out. AI can be an incredibly powerful tool to free up teacher time from some of the drudgery like lesson planning and marking of homework assignments. AI has already been shown to be very effective in that space, so we can do a lot in that world. I think we're also seeing evidence of using AI for instructional design. So like how you prepare courses in a way that really helps deliver attainment outcomes of learning. That again is something that we have evidence of in our own tools, for example, in the US and with higher education, but you're going to see much more of AI being applied for programs and software that essentially is designed to help educators design courses in a really good way. And then finally, personalization. We know that every human brain is different. You learn differently from how I learn, and that's different from Vishal. And AI allows us for the first time ever to tailor learning pathways to the individual. And those are the sorts of things that will give people way better outcomes than in the past.
And Vishal, how companies are rethinking on hiring solutions and all, and how Pearson is contributing to that also?
So one of the things that I think companies are really focused on is to hire the right talent. We call it talent sourcing. And that involves a couple of things. Firstly, you need to plug into a talent pipeline, particularly for early stage career, right? And people are coming out of educational institutions. So we help them there. I mean, in India, we have done this work, where we have connected companies to higher educational institutions. We have rolled out programs in the institutions on behalf of these companies. So that's one part of the story. Another part of the story is for more experienced candidates, we also run a whole set of assessments. And when we think about assessments, this is not just about assessments on their AI fluency and technical skills, but also assessments on soft skills, which are becoming increasingly important. Things like critical thinking, learning to learn, creativity, so on and so forth. So our assessments are used widely. The other thing which we do extensively in India is everything around language learning. This is also very important, part of our business here. Language is a big topic in India. English language is important here, and we also do a lot of assessments, but not only that, but also help people learn English language as well. So that's the third part of the assessment piece that I want to complete for the hiring.
And Omar, which skills will be non-negotiable in the next 5 to 10 years, and how is AI contributing to it, and how is Pearson contributing to it directly or indirectly?
So I'm going to quote Jamie Dimon, the CEO of JP Morgan, who, I'm paraphrasing, but what he basically said is if you have critical thinking, if you have emotional intelligence, if you have communication skills, and if you have learning skills, you're going to be employed for the long run. The bit that Pearson is very fixated on is that last one, learning skills. Because I think people used to think that you would go to school and university to learn skills. But what we've learned with AI is that the half-life of skills is declining. So learning is the skill. And we have decades of learning science and neuroscience and cognitive behavior studies that show us actually how humans learn. And you can embed learning to learn techniques in teacher education, teacher qualifications, and in the digital platforms that you use for teaching and educating and learning. And so That's where we're very focused. But those are the things that will help people have a good life looking forward.
Vishal, coming back to you for an India-specific question. A large talent pool is in non-metro or rural areas. How is AI helping there, increasing employability, skill sets, and again, Pearson, how is it coming into picture there?
Sumit, if there is one thing which worries me, it is precisely that. In the sense that I think the risk we are running is to create sort of two classes of learners or students, if I may. Learners or students who will have access to AI skills, AI learning, and students who will not have access to AI learning. A lot of talent pool in India is in tier 2, tier 3 cities and in villages. And one of the things that we have been thinking through with our partners is how do we access that talent base? Today, I have to tell you, we have not been very successful in that, but it will come down to the ecosystem that I told you about. I don't think Pearson can do it by ourselves. One of the things, for example, as a partner, we work a lot with Microsoft. Now, Microsoft has a very large program called Microsoft Elevate, where they are looking at educating, a large number of people on Microsoft technologies, and there again we are partnering them to see if we can bring it out not only in the tier 1 cities but also to tier 2 and tier 3 cities. It's been a difficult journey, Sumit, but that's something which I really worry about, because I think it's an obligation we have of not leaving anybody behind. Everybody should have access to education, and that's a really important mission for Pearson here in India.
The threat perception, sometimes it's being talked about in circles. Is there a real threat for those who don't skill? Do they have to be afraid of something like that?
I don't see it that way. One of the things we researched is, which is actually absolutely true, that learning is an innate human skill, right? The day we are born or the second we are born, we are learning, It is just about knowing that, being aware of that, and I believe every human being will learn, Sumit. So I don't think it's a threat. I think people will learn at different pace, different speeds, at different levels, but everybody will learn. And I'm sure we'll get to the other side of this AI thing really as a great humanity. I think everybody will be fine. That's what my belief is.
Okay, I mean, if you think back to when the internet came, everyone said it was going to destroy retail. It hasn't. But what happens is the companies that innovated well, they're still here and they're very successful. Walmart the other day became a $1 trillion company. But the companies that didn't, they're gone. And that's what happens. People who innovate, companies that innovate, they'll be fine.
Okay. Last quick questions. What about universities? Universities, are they putting enough emphasis on AI skilling across the world?
So I was struck by the fact that in China, not so long ago, like 4 or 5 years ago, AI training became mandatory. They've got this thing called the Genius Program from 2017, where they create huge incentives for kids to compete aggressively in STEM areas and win like the maths and the computer science Olympiad and these sorts of things, in order so that they have a very strong talent pool going to the top universities and jobs in AI. Meanwhile, in the US, for example, actually universities were telling kids, no, we don't like this, don't do it, because they're worried about cheating. I think that's changed now. I think people realize that you can't, it's unfair on the kids to hold them back from learning AI when they enter the job market and the first thing they're asked is, what do you know on AI? So I think people are beginning to think more carefully about how you develop the right AI skills, but at the same time be careful to use AI in a way that actually enhances learning and not doesn't reduce it, because you do have to do it in the right way. So I think we're beginning to see a shift.
So, Vishal, coming back to you, I think it's the last one question. To sum up all these things now, AI as a big support, also what is Pearson doing moving forward, also going forward in future? What are the plans which you can share some of these bits?
Yeah, so AI is a massive amplifier in India. That's how we see it. And so India will have two sides to it for us. We will continue to grow in India as a business. We already have a substantial business here. And as I said, in all of the segments we are in schools, in higher educational institutions, in enterprise. So we'll continue to do that. We have a very strong leadership team. We'll continue to bring some of the best-in-class products to this market. So that's on one side. On the other side, India is also one of our largest technology and innovation hubs. And that's really important. And these two are kind of a little bit connected as well. So we do a lot of technology and product engineering work out of India.
All right. Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you for giving your time and sharing your thoughts to us. Thank you, Omar, and thank you, Vishal, once again.
Thank you.
I'm very encouraged in the conversations I've been having recently, I had the privilege with our CHRO, Ali Bibo, to really have a focus in Davos in that there's we framed it as the new power couple. That as we think about the power of this technology and the power of our deep understanding of the humans who do the work and the systems of work that they're in, if we think about those two things together, we can really achieve much more than if we just throw the keys to the 16-year-old and let them start driving, right? If we just do automation. And so that's what we're really focused on. I'm having a blast with Ali. We're doing it for ourselves at Pearson. We're working with many of you and our partners are in the room. And I'm so pleased to see many of you here to really have that thoughtfulness to think through how does the human experience change? How does the nature of the work, how do we redesign the work fundamentally thinking from the human first? And then how do we take that notion of really understanding the skills that someone has, the context within that work and how it's changing and how this powerful new tool can contribute?
Momentum builds at the Pearson Skills Summit 2026, powered by the Economic Times, as leaders align to create a future-ready workforce, powered by AI-enabled learning and strategic partnerships. Because India's workforce future demands collaboration at scale.
Mr. Amitabh would like to understand from you about the gap between the employability versus the skill in the industry, particularly when you talk about the tech and the manufacturing side.
So I think we all know that the gap is significant. I think the thing that sort of worries me more is not the fact that the gap is significant. I mean, over a period of time, perhaps that could get resolved or addressed in some ways. But I think the real challenge that all of that we face today is the fact that gap is going to expand and widen in the near term, given how fast and rapidly the external context is changing. The changing kind of definition of industry, the changing world of work, the changing almost nomenclature and categorization or classification of skills is what is perhaps compounding that already sizable and significant gap. So I think that's the real challenge that universities, the workforce, and of course, just society needs to think about and perhaps focus.
Rajiv, which jobs do you think are most exposed right now?
The number of jobs for developers, testers, call center agents are likely to reduce. But Volkswagen hired a team of 50 neurophatic engineers. Apple hired a team of haptic engineers. These are terms I didn't even know a few years back. So what's going to happen? But then my parents or my grandparents didn't know the term what an IT developer means or what a call center agent means. It's okay. So these things will keep changing. There's nothing new about it. And I personally believe there's no reason to worry so much that, oh God, skills are changing. You assume that human beings are at the top of the organism chain because we can just adapt.
What are your views on where should India build its capabilities when it comes to the next gen skilling and learning part?
I would say this. I mean, at Pearson, one of our core values is around curiosity. And I actually think that, your workforce today is simply a function of how your K-12 and higher education infrastructure is set up and how well that works or doesn't, right? It's a very straightforward pipeline. We can all get our heads around it quite easily. I would say really reinforcing how well K-12 works, what the choke points are or the exit points within K-12 from a STEM perspective, what they are from a career and technology perspective in terms of vocational pathways and getting all of that lot right. I know it sounds really, really painful and hard. It is. Meaningful improvements in educational outcomes are long-lasting, profound, and really, really hard to do. They are worth their weight in gold because if you get that right, you have a better equipped citizenship to actually handle some of the challenges that we're facing. The world is changing at a faster rate than ever before. You didn't need me to tell you that. But it's the core fundamentals in terms of things like curiosity, creativity, willingness to challenge, willingness to think through problems, problem solving. They are the hallmarks of people who have gone through a thoughtful and a very considered education system. It is hard to do. It is really hard to do. Just improving some of those metrics, which are hard to measure, a little bit will make a huge difference.
Sharon, how are education institutions arranging the needs of curriculum with industrial institutions? And can you give example from English proficiency as your president English language?
I was at the World Education Forum earlier this year, and also Pearson is working very closely with the World Skills Organization. And there were 90 countries represented at the World Skills Organization meeting that I attended, and every single one of them, technical and vocational education was right at the top of the agenda, how they could reshape, how they could make sure it was fit for purpose, this sort of growing need for, more sort of industry, kind of blue-collar type roles, being very different and needing to really attract young people into those types of roles. So it's a challenge that many countries are facing. And in the UK, I've worked in the UK education sector for a long time as well, and we have quite a mature system. It's by no means perfect. Of course, every system needs to adapt and evolve. But, one of the things that we've been doing as Pearson is taking some of what we've learned from the UK system and then working with governments around the world to really help support this kind of rethinking of how you reshape that technical and vocational education to make it really fit for purpose for the future, and to encourage more young people as well to move into those types of roles. So it's something that's very important to many governments. I think just coming back to the sort of English language and communication skills, what we're seeing, particularly in many of the sectors that are very strong in India around, engineering and technology, English is a really important foundational skill. Yes. We've talked to lots of companies about how can you help our employees be able to write better prompts, be able to really create hypothetical questions and use English in that way as part of their role. And what we're seeing is it's something that we believe needs to be continuously supported in an individual's role. So, communication is fundamental to many of those types of jobs. But also, we've talked earlier on the panel about the importance of human skills. And of course, human skills are underpinned by communication. So I think communication, and in some sectors, English, is going to become increasingly important as we move forward.
To you, Mr. Arohi, then for enterprises, we would like to understand from your point of view, what is driving this urgency around skills development and how AI is contributing to it now?
The urgency is again clearly half-life of skills is shrinking, and I think previous panel also talked about what exactly are the new kind of jobs, or the jobs, the way they are evolving, and the role of, for example, IT services company is definitely changing, right? And that's where I gave that the construct of 3 different horizons: skills of past, skills of today, and skills of tomorrow. And the previous panel also talked about the fact that the distinction was always there, but the biggest issue is the pace of change is a lot more rapid. I think just look at it, right? We actually hired 20,000 college grads last year at Cognizant, and they go through a 4-month to 6-month additional training program, because we think that the talent that we are hiring is not ready for the jobs that we need to kind of put them in. So we actually have some kind of a bridge program to get the people ready from a college to a corporate kind of thinking. But within the 4 to 6 months, you're already seeing significant change. So that is where I think that urgency is there in terms of what exactly skill development should be.
Yeah, to you, Mr. Mittal. Now, what is the biggest change which is needed to transform the talent marketplace?
I fully agree with Arohi that there is a time that if we have to look for the future across the sector, we have to be more fluid, as well as we have to be more modular in our skill set. We don't have to be compartmentalized. We have to be more generalist, but at the same time, adaptability is very, very important. And we have to have very stackable skill sets, or in simple terms, if we say that we have to learn unlearn and relearn. That is the key. We don't have to be static. We have to constantly adjust to the dynamic environment. With the advent of the automation, personalized AI, we can even multiply our capabilities. So the AI is a good tool, but yes, how to use it in the right context, and along with that, the knowledge of the subject makes the real good combination to take these tools to the increase in the productivity and the future learning skills.
If there is one truth today, is that we cannot escape, is this: in the AI powered world, a person's biggest risk is not losing a job for machine, but for losing it to someone who has learned to work with that machine. Reskilling is no more a HR priority, but an economic necessity. And that is exactly why we are all there in this room today. Respected leaders, distinguished guests, partners, and friends of Pearson, good evening and thank you for being with us today at the Pearson Skills Summit 2026.